Hi, it's Paula from Paula Quilting. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm working on another magic pattern, and it is another kind of a very traditional block, which is a windmill block, but we will add a little bit of spin on it. And like I've mentioned, I work with magic numbers, so I'm using my 4.5 inches pre-cuts. If you are new to the channel, or maybe you haven't heard about how to use magic numbers to sort out your scraps and kind of use them up quickly, if you subscribe to my newsletter, you will receive a nice video explaining it all. There are also some articles on my website explaining about it as well, so I will link it all in the description below. To subscribe to my newsletter, there will be a little bit more information about it later, so please watch till the end. So what I've got here is 4 pieces of the same fabric in 2 shades to pair them up for the classic windmill block initially. And it was a little bit of struggle to actually pull out 4 pieces out of my magic numbers, because I'm using mostly scraps for my sewing, so sometimes it's difficult. So if you don't have the same, just color coordinate them. They don't have to be exactly the same, just match them up as possible as you can, and that will work as well. So I've got 4 of each. We'll be making a couple of blocks at the same time, which is great. So the first thing we want to do, you want to draw a line on one of those blocks, and normally if I'm making half square triangles, I would just iron the line, putting the wrong sides together, iron, and then you have that crease to go on. However, with this one we're making 2 half square triangles at the time. One will be just by sewing in the middle, which that's why I'm saying let's put a line there, and you could use iron for this bit, but we will need to add another line to make a second half square triangle, and I'm just adding that line a half an inch below the first one, more or less. It doesn't have to be exact, just more or less half an inch is fine. And to be fair, you can use a normal pen or pencil, whatever marking tool you've got, because we are going to be sewing on that line, so nobody will see it later anyway. So that's the wrong side where I did my markings, and I'm just taking the second fabric of which I will pair it up together. I'll put it on top of each other, and I will sew on this line, then I will sew on that line, and I will cut in between to have 2 half square triangles. Now they are going to be 2 different sizes, and that's where our twist coming in, so just please be sure to watch to the end. So I made one kind of set here, but I need to do it on all of those, so I will meet you at the machine when I'm kind of ready to sew and show you how it goes. When you have a lot of pieces to sew together, we'll definitely chain piecing it just to make it quick. I've marked the lines on this set for kind of pairs for this set, but on this one I will do it a little bit differently, just to show you both ways of doing it. So here I've got drawn line, so it's gonna be very easy to kind of sew it, because I'm just literally following the line. And obviously if you want to chain piece and make it as quickly as possible and also save some threads, then I can just feed another piece straight away after. Just following that first line or second line, doesn't really matter. Just as far as you're stitching one after another on one of the lines, it's fine. Now on these ones, I actually ironed my squares with the irons wrong sides together, like I've mentioned at the very beginning, if you're just doing one set. And you can do it as well, but what you will need to do with the second line is basically eyeball it. So it really depends how good you are with the sewing in straight lines and how good you are in eyeballing your distances. What I will actually use is my kind of foot to gauge how far away I am here, because when at the moment I'm just sewing on that creased line, that's straight and no problem. So if you know what's the distance between your needle and the end of the foot, you can then kind of work out how far you will need to stitch next time round. So if I measure half inch from the needle or from the crease to the edge, my foot is kind of about, I don't know, a little bit away from it. So this is when I'm gonna eyeballing. I need to make sure that when I'm gonna come back the second pass, between this crease and my second stitching is more than that kind of foot width. So it depends how, like I said, how much experience you've got, how good you are with eyeballing. you can do this as well. This is obviously quicker because I didn't have to draw 2 lines, but then again, if I'm not good with eyeballing, then I might be off quite a lot as well, and I want to have that 1/2 inch here to make sure we have nice seams here and nothing kind of falls apart. But this first step is exactly the same as with the sets where I did draw a line, so I just quickly finish, and then we can turn it all the stack around and sewing the second line in one go as well. Okay, so I'm just turning all fabric around, and I will stitch the other line. Like I said, I'm just gonna have to come out with my foot edge under that line for about I don't know, it's maybe an 8 or even a little bit of less. That was this distance between my needle and the end of the foot, plus that extra to make it 1/2 inch. As you can also see, my top square is not actually a square. I didn't notice before I take it to the sewing machine that it's actually not a square. I don't have another piece of fabric, so I'm just praying it's gonna be enough for what I need. We'll see. I might need to replace it with something else later, but for now let's leave it as is. So once you know how many of those kind of sets needs to make for blocks, you will have from each of this set you will have 2 blocks. So if you know how many blocks you need, then obviously you can chain piece all of it in one go. That's quite an easy and nice process. Okay, I finished sewing all of my stitches here, so just quickly separate all of those sewn pieces together, and obviously next step is to cut in between. Then I will take it to the iron and open them all up, and we will need to square them up. However, there's a nice trick with this block, which I will show you when I get to it. So it's not going to be that much of the squaring up as you think. So you can stack them in few per time, because if you can align both of those lines together, so we've got that main line here, you can stack them and then cut in one go, few at a time. That will save some time as well. Just make sure you have them set up the same way, so both lines are aligned, rather than you're aligning just here and that other stitching is on both sides, so that will not work obviously. So just align as many as you feel comfortable with. I think the 4 is fine with me, because that means I'm cutting through the 8 pieces of fabric. Make sure you have a nice good blade there, new, so it cuts through nice, through few layers at the same time. So this is the tricky one. I hope will be enough, but still I can just align them here and try to cut as many as I can in one go. That's a kind of good time saver as well. And I'm not measuring here that 1/2 inch into half, I'm just kind of eyeballing the middle. Okay, so I've got my half square triangles back, and you've got 2 sizes of them. So we've got the larger one, which will be more or less 4.5 inches, because that's the triangle, that's the squares we've started from, so they should give us more or less the same size, so it's not a problem if it isn't. And then we've got the stack of the smaller ones. When I did iron them, with the seam in the same direction, so that I was opening them the same way all the time. So that's just another thing to remember. When you're ready to start squaring them up, make sure you stack them in the same direction. So one fabric is always on the same side and other fabric is always on the other side. It doesn't matter which way, whether it's this way or this way, as far as they are stacked the same way, because we only will be squaring up one side of it, but it has to be exactly the same side on all of those pieces. So I'm just taking my ruler and I'm aligning my middle line with the block as close as I can to that edge, and just squaring up this edge. I don't have to worry about the other side. I just want to have a nice this one side, and I will do that for all of the blocks. And if you're doing it in the batch like I will do, I will have 4 kind of batches now to do like this for 4 different blocks. What I will do, I will pin them. You know, you want to mark somehow which side you have squared up, because obviously it could have been the other side as well. You don't want to mix them up, that's important. So let's just square up this last one as close as you can to this edge. And my last one. So it saves you half of the time because you don't have to worry about that other side. So that's actually, again, quite a quick and easy process, to be fair. So nice beginners friendly block, I would say. So I put them back in the stack. This is the side which I have squared up. So either put a pin there or put the, I don't know, a clip there, whatever that is you normally using around your sewing machine. Just make sure you mark yourself which side you have done, which one you have squared up, because we will need that for our stitching. So I will now quickly square up the rest of my blocks, and I will do it exactly the same way. They are stacked the same direction, and I will quickly square them up. I'm just using normal square ruler to square them up. You may use any other rulers you've got. You may have some specific for the half square triangles, that's fine as well. Just use whatever tools you've got available. Like I said, the only rule here is square up as close as you can to the edge, and then make sure you're squaring up the same side and you know which one is it. So mark it somehow when you're done. Okay, so I've got all my stacks now trimmed on one side, and we will be sewing the windmills. Now we don't have to worry about all the sides of that windmill because we are going to be squaring them up again when they sewn together. So that's why you didn't have to do it from both sides. So this is that corner I've squared up. I want to have it in the middle. So I'm just going around and adding up my squares all around with that corner I did into the middle. So this corner here, those seams are going to be nice and straight. Here all around can be wonky. I don't mind, I don't care, because we're gonna trim it later. So when you take it to the sewing machine, because I also iron them the same direction, those seams should nicely nest here, so you shouldn't have a kind of double the layers there, which is fine. The only thing you need to remember, you want to align the bottoms kind of edges when you're sewing. Whatever happens here at the top doesn't matter. You want to align here the bottom and here the top, and then just chain piece them from top to bottom when you're kind of putting them together. So let me take it to the sewing machine and I will show you what I mean. So now I will change my foot to actually quarter foot one. If you have one, it's, you know, I do recommend it, just make it life easier. If you're good with your 1/4 inches without 1/4 inch foot, I do applaud you. I'm not good with that, so I'm using my 1/4 foot wherever I need to do 1/4 inches. So we all got things we are not great with, but there are tools to help us out. So I'm starting with that top one. I'm just eyelining this edge and this edge. You see they are not even here at the top, but I don't care about that. Is the bottom one seam here I'm kind of looking at and I'm thinking about. So I'm starting from the top. So I'm almost at the end here, and then on this second one, it's this top now I'm kind of aligning together to make it nice. You can see here again it's not even, but I am not worried about this part. And then this side as well I want to align to make it nice and straight. And this is again another block where chain piecing is recommended because it will speed up your work. Again, this is the smaller one, but it will work exactly the same way. I want to have the bit which I squared up to the inside, and I will align those pieces exactly the same way. So with the top piece I want to align bottom and side. Don't care what's at the top there, whether they're matching there or not. And then in this piece it's the top and the side, right side, the one which you will be stitching. What's happening here, I'm not bothered. Now you could obviously chain piece as many as you have here, but just for this tutorial, let's just focus on those two at the moment. So I just cut away my first two pieces so I can open them up now and then chain piece again. So here I want to focus on my middle to make sure I can nest the middle seam. If you need, you can use some pins to help you here to make sure it's all nicely aligned, and again, because that edge is not going to be necessarily even, so you're just going from this side out, kind of matching the fabric, and then you stitch it together. Use pin or clips if you need to help you out with that process here. And let's do that again with that smaller one. Again, I'm cutting it out. I will open it up, put on each other, and it's that middle bit I want to align first, and then kind of stretch out, not stretch the fabric, just stretch out the aligning to the side. Once that kind of middle seam sits nicely, it should be fairly easy, hopefully, to align. I just need to I'm just focusing on that first top bit here, not the bottom at the moment. The bottom part I align where I kind of get to that middle seam. Here you go, I'm at the middle seam, and then I can readjust it this side and finish off. So I've got my two blocks ready, and there is one more thing I need to do before I can take it to the ironing and make them open. So let me just make a little bit of close-up here. This is my last seam, the one I don't want to touch. So when I open that block on that seam, I'm just looking how those blocks, those pairs, initial pairs were sewn and which way they're coming in. So those two, I can see that seam kind of was nested towards me, and those two, the seam goes this way. So that's why I want to open them up that way. So first thread I caught is the one which was holding them in between when I was chain piecing them the last, and then I'm kind of pushing those seams the way I want them to go, and I will just have a look here in that kind of collection of the seams, what is holding them in the place and what else do I need to snip to make them flat. And I'm just opening it until it's ready, and I'm kind of cutting those seams which are stopping from those seams going the way I need them. And that's it really. That's the only rule I follow with it. There might be some other tutorials by other creators where they kind of explain it with more theory behind it, but that's how I do it, and that's how I've learned to do it, and it works. And that's it. That's the only thing, is that this seam here, the last seam, you definitely don't want to touch any on that, because that's basically what holds that block together. And that's it. Now I can take it to the iron, make it nice and flat, and we are ready for the next step. So we've got two sets of the blocks, which are ones are bigger and ones are smaller. So I will show you two methods how I will square them up using two different rulers. So if you have a ruler which is 6.5 inches, then there's nothing easier. You just put it on top of your block and you square it up. Now you don't have to make it so it's in the middle. If it's a little bit wonky with this block, that smaller one, that's okay. It's not going to be that much bigger than your ruler, so it's really not going to be visible. So we can just go ahead and, like I said, just square it up without kind of worrying that is the middle in the middle. The difference will not be big there. Now the more fun is with our bigger block. I'm still using my 6.5 inch ruler because I want to make a 6.5 inch block. So I'm laying it down more or less in the middle. If you have a ruler with diagonal lines and it's 6.5 inch ruler, that will be easier, but you don't have to have it, and I will show you in a minute with the bigger ruler. So I'm laying it down more or less in the middle, and then you want to twist it. You want to twist it so as far as you can, obviously, to stay on the fabric. So those corners here are almost touching the edges here, and then you square it up as well. And that's why I've called it a twisted windmills, because we are twisting our ruler to get the shape. Now, those cutouts here, I will save them for my adding tape process, so they are good to go there. So now I've got a pair of the kind of windmills from the same fabrics. One is looking like a straight one, traditional one, and one is twisted. And let me show you the same thing with a bigger ruler. So when I'm squaring up that smaller one to 6.5, it's really not that much work here. I'm just finding where is my 6.5 inch on my ruler, and I will kind of align those lines first to make sure they're matching. And I'm glad that my, you know, that one piece was smaller than the other ones, because this fabric was not even. So I'm glad that I'm still able to do 6.5 inch block out of it, just about, to be fair, but I've managed, so I'm okay. Again, I'm not worrying to be kind of centered here. It's by, you know, after all, twisted. I know that the other one is more twisted than this one, but that's the freedom of this block, that you don't have to worry about kind of making it straight. And because we only squared up one side of those half square triangles, it does save us a lot of time, so it's nice and easy to do. Also, it's very beginners friendly because of that. Now, I did starch those blocks when I was ironing them, so it depends what type of fabric you're working with. It's a little bit, if it's more flimsy, anything you want to square up later, it's good if it's a little bit more rigid, so you can use a little bit of starch there. But you want to do it before you square up, not after. Starch will change the size a little bit of your block, so make sure you do it before the final cuts. So now it's that bigger one. So two methods of doing it. As you can see here, I've got a little bit of masking tape, very narrow masking tape on this one. I was using this ruler for something else. So you can use masking tape to kind of align where the 6.5 inch is, and that will kind of make easier when you're manipulating it. Or I'm using a flip chart marker, not the permanent marker, just the flip chart marker, to make my lines on my ruler, because that will come off. You can wash it off very easily. I'm just going to do my 6.5 inch shape here. It will smudge a little bit if you touch it straight away, so just leave it to dry. So that's my 6.5. It doesn't have to be exactly on that line. You just want to kind of highlight yourself where that line on your ruler is going to be. And also, more or less, you would like to mark yourself where is the center of that 6.5. So you will 3.25. So 3.25 is here, 3.25 is here. When they meet up, that's my middle. So I'm just putting a dot here. That's all what I need. Because again, it's twisted windmill, so it doesn't have to be very precise. So I'm putting my middle in the middle. That's my dot there, so I can just align it, and then I'm twisting again one way or other way, whichever is fine, until here it's easy, that corner is very visible. Now I'm just looking at my lines, the one I drew, are they still on the fabric? If not, I will just adjust it a little bit. So this one is almost there. I can just move it slightly there. Manipulate your ruler until you're happy that where your 6.5 inches lines are, you are still on the fabric. Again, this dot, it doesn't have to be exactly in the center, just more or less. That's all the freedom there. Obviously, if you have a 6.5 inch ruler, it's going to be easier, because that's your cut. But you can work with the bigger ruler as well. Now, if you're following my magic number method of the cutting or preparing your scraps, then actually I normally would say don't invest in the rulers until you know you will be using them more often. And if you do following my magic number method, then 6.5-inch ruler is probably one you would like to invest in to make your life easier. So here we go, 6.5 inch there, and I could cut it out. And again, all of my scraps are going to my adding tape box. So here I've got now 4. So I will make few more and I will pop them on the design board, and we will have a look at the combinations we can make either just from those blocks. I will perhaps link them with some solids or crumbs or something like that. Also, don't forget this is 6.5-inch, which is a part of my magic number tray. So if you make some just for fun of making it, you don't want to make it into quilt, cushion cover, whatever else you're doing, you just like the shape, you make some, put them back in your magic number trays and use them in the other design blocks, because obviously this is 6.5 inches. You would need to make quite a few of them to make a quilt unless you mix it and we have a look at it on the design board. But you could always use them as a part of the bigger magic number blocks, and be sure to check out all of those tutorials in the magic number playlist, because they would fit nicely with some other designs as well. Before I show you my finished project, just a quick reminder where you can find me and how you can support my work. You can subscribe to my website to be notified when new tutorials, products or patterns are released. You can find me on my Facebook page, Pola Photo, or you can join my group page, Pola Quilting with Friends, where we all share work made inspired by my tutorials and answer any questions you may have. There is Instagram account called Pola Quilting, and if you like to share something you made based on my tutorials, please tag me using hashtag Pola Quilting with Friends. To support my work, please like, comment and share when you see my posts or tutorials. Let your quilting friends know about this channel and invite them to the group and subscribe to my channel. If you like to contribute extra, you can use super thanks on YouTube or buying me virtual tea, coffee or lunch available on my page. All links are in the description below. I would like to thank you all for all the support so far and letting me grow in what I do. Just to let you know, there is now another incentive to join my newsletter. So back in November, as you remember, I was one of the presenters on the Scrappy Summit, which was a great success. A lot of people happy with joining us. So I decided to make my own presentation available to those who join my newsletter. So once you confirm your subscription, you will receive document with a link to my presentation. Be sure to save the document for future reference. And if you already joined my newsletter, a link to the presentation will be included in the next few newsletters, so you will have access to it as well. Here they are, a selection of the twisted and wonky windmills. So twisted are the ones when I had to twist the ruler, and the wonky ones are the one where I just square them up, but I've mentioned they do not have to be centered, hence they are wonky ones. I have paired this up with crumbs and plain fabric, so you have an idea how they can look. You can have it just straight or just twisted in columns or rows. It adds a really nice amount of movement to those setups. But I think personally I like the layout 1 because the ones which are wonky ones are creating another additional pattern around the twisted ones, so it gives really nice amount of movement in this one as well. But if you work with the darker and brighter pairs, it will really be visible, so I like that output. I also have another idea how to use these blocks, and I will share it with you in another tutorial. Thank you very much for watching today. Don't forget to comment on your favorite layout and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to see how this block progress. If you have any questions, again, please use the comment sections. I'm happy to respond to any of your queries. Don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter, so if you're missing notifications from the YouTube, you will always have an email if something new appears either on my YouTube or at my shop. Happy sewing, everyone. Thank you for watching. I hope you will share this tutorial. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Happy sewing and see you next time.